Tonight, a breakdown of trust with the voters. The SNP Conference starts with a look back at major losses in the general election and what went wrong.
You can't lose an election in the way that we did without recognising the fact that you've lost the trust of the people.
Also making the headlines, remembering family and friends who've died from an overdose. Events are being held across the country.
In sport, on transfer deadline day, Celtic make a late move for the Dundee midfielder Luke McCowan.
And the star from the Royal Ballet giving a masterclass in dance to pupils at his old school in Airdrie. I'm Emma Cameron in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6.
Good evening. The first gathering after losing 39 seats at last month's general election. The SNP's 90th annual conference opened with a 2-hour private session where party members told the leadership what they felt went wrong.
The verdict: the SNP needs to rebuild the trust of voters and focus on delivery from the Scottish Government and regain their reputation for the 2026 Scottish Parliament elections. Well, our political editor Colin Mackay is at the conference in Edinburgh. So Colin, what's the mood?
It's as downbeat as you would expect after that disastrous election result. The SNP's got into the habit of winning elections and they're taking the general election result hard. John Swinney took 2 hours of questions from SNP members today. The first of them was about the loss of trust, particularly referring to Operation Branchform, the police investigation into SNP finances. Now, it was a closed session, there was no media allowed in, but everyone I spoke to afterwards supported John Swinney as leader. But when I was speaking to the SNP's Westminster leader, Stephen Flynn, he said that he wouldn't rule out a potential bid to become an MSP at the 2026 election. He says he'll consider that next year. There were a couple of points of consensus in the SNP's post-election post-mortem. The party has found it tough and members realised they've lost the voters' trust.
You can't lose an election in the way that we did without recognising the fact that you've lost the trust of the people. Now, there's a multitude of reasons for that, as I've outlined in terms of our priorities, our delivery, and of course many of the things that have happened to us. What we need to do is reflect upon that, have those discussions, and then refocus on delivery for the public. If you do that, you win back the public's trust, and that's what we're in the business of.
At the general election, the SNP lost a third of its vote in 39 seats, holding just 9.
Many of us were dreading it, and it ended up being a very constructive and positive meeting. A lot of truth-telling, a lot of acknowledging where we are and where we have to go to, but positive.
After a result like that, there must have been a lot of pain as well. A
huge amount of pain, yeah, a huge amount of pain. And one of the things that we learned in the data was that many of the amazing things the Scottish Government have done have been, and I quote, thanked and banked. So all of the measures we've taken to protect people in Scotland are, thanked and banked, and we can't rely on them anymore.
That discussion today is not going to solve everything all in one discussion, but I do feel that it's given us the front footing to turning that page to making that difference.
Westminster election's over, done. We need to look forward to 2026, and I'm up for the challenge.
The editor of the Scots Independent newspaper thinks the party leadership still has a long way to go to come to terms with the election result.
What you had was basically still an element of grieving over the result, an element of looking for a magic wand for independence, and ignoring the hard reality of talking to electors to find out what is important to them and how will they want to be communicated to, how do they want to engage on what independence means or not to them.
Some pretty tough home truths then for the SNP and for the leadership.
They have to wake up to the reality that we're in a very difficult situation.
I'm not sure there was much evidence of that in the conference hall.
Unlike our critics who say we're finished, the campaign for independence is not over. It has moved on to its next phase. So let's commit today to making sure that next phase is the last phase and we move to independence for our country. Thank you, delegates.
At the end of the Deputy Leader's speech, there was no standing ovation, no big cheers. This conference is more about licking wounds than delivering independence.
And Colin, more bad news for John Swinney tonight.
Yes, Unison has been balloting school staff for strike action on the council pay offer. They now have mandates for strikes in Orkney, Shetland, Angus, East Renfrewshire and Perth and Kinross. Now, John Swinney is the MSP for Perthshire North, so Unison is going to target his backyard. Unison is also due to get the result of its national ballot on the council pay offer on Monday, and it looks like they're going to reject it. So John Swinney is making hundreds of millions of pounds of cuts to meet public sector pay demands, and it might not be enough.
Colin in Edinburgh, thank you. Communities across Scotland will come together tomorrow to remember family and friends who have died from an overdose. Last week, statistics revealed drug deaths have risen sharply and remain the worst in Europe.
Drug services are not immune to this loss. Staff at one centre in Glasgow have been reflecting on the challenges of the last 12 months. They say alcohol, together with polydrug use, is adding to the complexity of this escalating crisis. Here's our chief reporter, Sharon Frew.
Who is your care manager?
The first port of call for those referred to this drug stabilisation service was once in need of the same support herself. Emma's brother Neil followed her to Glasgow, also looking for help with his drug addiction.
People were worried that I wouldn't be able to continue to do this job after I lost my brother. I think a lot of people were worried that, but it's actually gave me more drive and passion.
Neil died last April. In 2023, drugs claimed the lives of 1,172 people, an increase of 12% from the previous year.
Neil was such a gentle soul, and I miss him. I miss him dearly. When the figures came out, my initial feeling was anger, and I feel that society becomes so blasé about drug deaths, alcohol deaths, whatever it may be, and it's just, well no, actually these are people, these are human beings, and they deserve more.
Words of despair and hope. These poems and letters were written by residents of this 16-bed unit to help them process their thoughts as they work on their recovery.
Came from the heart. They really want change and they just need the help. It's been a particularly bad year that I have colleagues who were abstinent have died. A couple of colleagues that I worked with for a long time, and that really impacted on a lot of staff. Their family.
A year ago, staff described the catastrophic impacts of fake pills like Street Valium. Today, they say polydrug use continues to claim too many lives.
The drugs are getting mixed, people don't know what they're using. It's the same year on, but this year, I think with the nitazines coming in, that's really caused a few drug deaths that might not have happened. A lot of alcohol mixed in with that, where it used to be separate things, alcohol or drug use, now it's polysubstance use.
Every year in the lead up to the 31st of August, events are held to mark International Overdose Awareness Day. It's a campaign to tackle stigma, to inform people of the risks and to help those who grieve.
It's the people that are left behind that are left with this hole. So for them, their families and everyone else, that's why I want to continue helping people.
Sharon Frew, STV News, Glasgow.
A man has appeared in court accused of murdering a young mother with a glass bottle in Glasgow. Alexander Brennan allegedly assaulted Brodie McGregor at her flat in Springburn on Monday, repeatedly striking her on the face, head and body. The 52-year-old made no plea and has been remanded in custody.
College lecturers across Scotland have voted overwhelmingly to accept a new pay offer, bringing an end to strikes that have been running for the past 2 years. The EIS union said 95% of members had voted to accept the offer, which guarantees a pay rise of 4.14% next year. Now, with the Paralympics underway in Paris, the excitement is being felt here in Scotland too. The country's National Spinal Injuries Unit, based at the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital in Glasgow, has held its own games, with patients getting to try their hand at all kinds of new sports.
From boccia and foam javelin to curling and weights, there was plenty on the go, and plenty of competitive spirit too, with bronze, silver and gold medals up for grabs. Fraser Nicholl went along.
Whether it's shooting, archery or curling, everyone is a Paralympian at Scotland's Spinal Injury Unit today. Others, well, they're just plain showing off. Once the sports are all wrapped up, a quiz to settle the scores. Then it's time for the medal ceremony. Margaret, you won gold medal.
Right, well, yeah, it was a team effort.
Margaret from Glenrothes was admitted to the unit 5 months ago and, like many others, never could have expected it.
I had an operation for a trapped nerve in my neck, and when I woke up from the operation I was paralysed. The staff, they're amazing, honestly.
Today's event was run by the unit's staff and a team of volunteers, with some familiar faces too.
I spent quite a lot, over a year in the Spinal Injuries Unit when I was a youngster in 1981. I was a 16-year-old. So being able to come into the unit and give back and see the rest of people going through recovery and rehabilitation and being able to try different sports is absolutely fantastic.
And Angie isn't the only former patient to have gone on to compete. 3 are part of Team GB at this year's Paralympics.
Rehabilitation is a lifelong process, and when patients are admitted to the unit, it's important that we teach them the skills and the building blocks to allow them to re-engage back in life in the community. And that's not just in their everyday activities such as washing, dressing, being able to get in and out of their car, being able to go back to work. It's also what happens beyond that.
Just like all the athletes currently competing in Paris, and in true Paralympic spirit, the patients here are proving truly anything is possible. Fraser Nichol, STV News, Glasgow.
A major road connecting the south side of Glasgow to the rest of the city has reopened. The bridge on Shields Road is a huge commuter route and has been closed for more than a year. The project cost £12 million and will mean the bridge is no longer subject to weight restrictions. Our reporter Vanessa Taff is there for us tonight. And Vanessa, how significant is this reopening?
This is a really big deal for this local community. Now, this road is a major artery for anyone commuting or travelling from the south of the city into Glasgow or to try and access some of the motorways. Now, it opened just about an hour and a half ago, and the first car across it was a Glasgow black cab. But if you have a little look, we can see some of the new infrastructure in place here, a double cycle lane, and some of the footpaths have been widened as well too, which is much better for pedestrians. Well, I've been speaking to some local businesses and local people about the significant reopening.
Connecting a community with the wider city. This reopening will shorten local journey times and tackle traffic jams in other areas. For this local restaurant, it'll be a game changer.
The last year's been a bit of a struggle for everyone, especially on this street. But yeah, it will be good. We've found that the numbers of the last year have dwindled, so hopefully we get a lot more people in the building. Everyone says when they come here as well, like, oh, how long is it going to be until it's open? We can't wait till it's open. And it's just been a major pain, to be honest, to obviously get here. So we are in bang smack in the middle of it, of both sides. So everyone's been kind of raring to go to get it back open again.
The road between St Andrews Drive and Scotland Street closed last August. Engineers have worked in all weathers to get it open again on time. The project to strengthen the bridge cost Glasgow Council and Network Rail just shy of £13 million, but its reopening is priceless for locals.
I'm glad it's opening again because it's been taking so much longer taking the motorway to get to Kinning Park and all just round that way.
For the traffic, for a start, you know what I mean? Because the thing is, I've got to go so far. It takes about half an hour to get to the destination, you know, because it's crazy, but it's lovely.
Well, I go for the subway, so I do, so it makes great difference.
The HGVs coming from the warehouse district can get back to the motorway easier. Frankly, what we need here are low traffic neighbourhoods.
I remember when I used to go to work until I retired a few months ago, it was murder. And hopefully they'll take the congestion away from Pollockshaws Road and maybe they'll fill in some potholes in Pollockshaws Road. But brilliant. You know, I'm 77, but just because of this closure, you really drive, you know, the whole Pollockshaws you need to drive, you know, just to reach the motorways.
10-minute difference for me, usually when driving, yeah, so I have to make all the way around through Pollockshaws Road, so should be fine though now that's opened.
Oh, fantastic. It's going to be so much better, getting back to normal again.
A welcome return for a lifeline route in this community.
Vanessa Taff, STV News and Glasgow South Side.
A police officer is in hospital after he was struck by a vehicle in Hamilton. The crash happened on Low Water Road at around 1 o'clock today. The officer's condition is currently unknown. Police have cordoned off the streets while their inquiries continue. A lot happening in sports, so let's get straight to Raman.
STV Sport, sponsored by the C.R. Smith Summer Sale.
Good evening. Yes, we'll look ahead to the Old Firm Derby and the European draws shortly. But first, it's transfer deadline day. There are just under 5 hours left for clubs to make any signings. Jamie Borthwick has the very latest. Jamie.
Yes, Raman, Celtic active in the transfer market today with a couple of deals nearly there and one on the move as we speak. Celtic have been monitoring Dundee star Luke McCowan this month, and this evening they have made their move. Celtic have contacted Dundee with an official approach for the midfielder. Belgian midfielder Arne Engels is also set to join from Augsburg in Germany for a club record transfer fee. And American defender Austin Trusty is on his way to Celtic Park from Sheffield United for a package understood to be worth more than £5 million.
We don't want to just regenerate the squad, we want to improve the squad. And yeah, and I believe that come the end that will be the case. So as I said before, there's been a lot of hard work going on behind the scenes, and of course things sometimes don't happen until later on.
Meanwhile, Celtic have sold Mikey Johnston to West Bromwich Albion. Well, over at Rangers, they're closing in on a season-long loan for Dutch defender Horatio Casanviro from Feyenoord, and the Ibrox club are working on further signings as well. Heading out is Todd Cantwell, who's close to securing a permanent move to Blackburn Rovers, and Scott Wright has left Rangers to join Birmingham City.
That's what's happening at Celtic and Rangers. Has there been much business elsewhere?
Yeah, well, we'll start it. Hibs, they've agreed a loan deal to send winger Jair Tavares to Motherwell for the rest of the season. David Gray's hoping to make a few moves in and out today, and a central defender is one of his top priorities.
It's about putting it all together to collectively get that formula right is what we're trying to do all the time. And as I've already said, the players we've already brought in and the players who we would add would all have to add to that fact. They'd have to be technically better than what we've got, or at least have attributes that we're missing in the squad to improve the group.
It's all quiet at Hearts for now, but they haven't completely ruled out making a deadline day move. St Mirren are hoping to bring in a striker, and their youngster Ethan Sutherland has moved to Wolverhampton Wanderers. Finally, Motherwell today brought Jack Vale back in on loan from Blackburn after his successful spell at Fir Park last season. Well, the transfer window slams shut at 11 p.m. You can follow all the updates on our dedicated live blog over on the STV Sport website.
Jamie, who loves a slam shut, thanks very much for that. Now to this weekend's Old Firm Derby, and Brendan Rodgers says his new recruits could make their Celtic debuts on Sunday. At Rangers, Philippe Clement is searching for his first win in this fixture, and a former Ibrox manager believes there's not a big gap between the two teams.
In less than 48 hours' time, Celtic Park will host the first Old Firm Derby of the season. Brendan Rodgers has an excellent record in this fixture. Over 2 spells, he has tasted 14 wins and just 1 defeat in 18 meetings. But the Celtic boss says neither he or his players are complacent.
People can sometimes assume that when you're doing well and everything's going great, that you'll just turn up and win. And that's a very dangerous way to think, and that's why at Celtic we never ever do that. Always treat it, and I ask the player, it's like your first game. You know, the experience a lot of the guys have had in it is great, but you just can't assume that you just turn up and play these games, and because whatever your record's been in the past, that will continue.
Rangers could only secure 1 point from their 4 league meetings against Celtic last season and travel to Glasgow's East End as big underdogs and with an inferior squad to their city rivals. But
names on team sheets don't win you football matches. It's who turns up on the day.
And the history of the Old Firm Games is littered with the form book being thrown out the window for that particular game. I witnessed 2 Old Firm Games last year, the Cup final, and a 2-1 game at Parkhead, and I didn't think there was a great deal between the sides. So I'm hoping Rangers enjoy a good day.
Players from both clubs will make their Old Firm debuts on Sunday as Brendan Rodgers and Philippe Clement prepare to go head-to-head for the first time this season.
Now Rangers will face Manchester United away and welcome Ange Postecoglou's Spurs after being handed a tough Europa League draw. In the new league format, Rangers will face Lyon, Union Saint-Gilloise and Steaua Bucharest, and the other teams right there. Hearts have dropped into the Conference League and they'll take on the following opponents, and we'll know the fixture dates tomorrow morning. Well, Stephen Naismith says it was an opportunity missed and admits Hearts are failing to meet expectations after limping out of the Europa League to Victoria Pilsen last night. Kilmarnock are out of Europe following their fighting second leg draw with FC Copenhagen last night, and Derek McInnes says it must act as a motivation to book a return to European competition next year. Here's Lewis Mickey.
Tonight was a good opportunity to get the Europa League. It's one that I think we've missed. But as I said at the weekend, being at a big club and not getting results, there's a demand, there's a level that's expected of you, and at the moment we're not hitting it.
When it's good, it's all well and good to everyone come in and think how good's this, but when it's bad, that's when you got to stand up and be a man. And I feel like everyone in that change room, myself included, need to do that. The next challenge is Sunday, and we know how big a game that is.
Beating Tromsø, we've drawn with Cercle Bruges, we've drawn with Copenhagen, we've been alright in Europe, we've been good output of the effort and it's been great. But at the same token, it's affected us domestically, and I'm not looking at the league table now. Somebody's told us we're bottom of the league, so we've got work to do once we get back.
And that's all your sport tonight, folks.
STV Sport, sponsored by the C.R. Smith Summer Sale.
Now Sean's here with the weather.
A spell of wows will gradually settle into a scattering of traditional tapas. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
A very good evening to you. A beautiful day out there today. Plenty of sunshine. Beautiful, not a word I've used often this summer, but more beautiful weather to come tomorrow. Clear blue skies for many of us, and those temperatures nudging into the low 20s, so it's going to feel lovely out there tomorrow. Through tonight, with the light winds, the clear skies, it is going to be quite a chilly one. Those temperatures will be down to about 5 or 6 degrees Celsius. A little bit of an autumnal freshness in the mornings just now. And of course, officially, well, meteorological autumn starts on Sunday. And a bit of a change in the weather by the time we get to Sunday as well, but let's enjoy tomorrow. We've got those blue skies and those lovely temperatures as well. Very gentle south to southeasterly breeze. That means the highest temperatures will be across central parts. Let's take a closer look at what's in store for you tomorrow. The Ayrshire coast, North Ayrshire, we're about 18 degrees Celsius coming inland, 20 degrees. Probably top temperatures around the likes of Johnston, Paisley, Glasgow, Motherwell, Airdrie, into the likes of Strathblane and around the Trossachs tomorrow. Our top temperatures will be up to a lovely 21 degrees Celsius, so a very, very pleasant day, and again, very rare so far this summer to have something like that. So yes, a lovely day to come. Even Argyll and Bute inland areas expect our temperatures will be up to about 20 degrees, the same inland parts of the Highlands as well. Sunday will start to see a bit more cloud and the risk of some light showers, especially across southern parts. Best of the brightness and still warmest in the northwest. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
And finally, a Scottish ballet star who's travelled the world has returned to his hometown for the first time in his professional career. Rhys Clark from Airdrie began his training at the Janice Ridley School of Dance.
Now he and his colleagues at the Royal Ballet have travelled to Scotland to put on 2 performances. Caitlin Hutchison has been to meet him.
He's an Airdrie boy who's travelled the world performing with the Royal Ballet. His position as principal dancer has seen him take on iconic roles, including Romeo, Prince Siegfried in Swan Lake, and the Prince in The Nutcracker. But he's decided it's time to come home for 2 special performances at Airdrie Town Hall.
It's a very special moment, you know, as you say, first time performing in Scotland, and I'm going to be performing on the first stage I ever performed on, you know, back to the roots, back to where it all started.
Rhys and his brothers began dancing at the age of 3, with all 4 siblings going on to join the Royal Ballet School.
All we're going to do is you're going to lift the right leg up.
And today he offered a masterclass to the kids at Airdrie Academy and Roxallick Primary School, hoping to inspire the next generation of dancers and answer their questions.
That was amazing. Like, I've never saw like anything like it.
It was so cool seeing someone from a background like ours come so far in that industry.
At first I thought it was kind of like just dancing, but it's got a full story behind it.
I had to like do that like 8 times. After one jump I was exhausted.
Is there anywhere else you would like to go around the world doing ballet dancing?
How did it feel to be so young and the leader in the ballet?
Was there a point in your life where you felt it was impossible?
I want to be an actress and I write songs, so I want to be a songwriter as well.
I mean, just go in with open arms, you know.
It's a thing that teachers always joke with their children and say, oh, when you're famous you need to come back and see us. So Rhys is the first child that's actually come back and done that. It's lovely.
So Rhys, obviously we have inspired a lot of young people today. I say we, I mean you of course, but is it ever too late to learn?
Not too late, definitely not. Obviously, if you want to have a career in it, I'd say you have to start at a fairly young age. But I really do believe dance is for everyone, and it's really inside us all, you know. So I'm so passionate about encouraging everyone to get up and dance.
Well, shall we see if there's a little bit of dance inside of me then?
Let's do it.
Despite my squeaky boots, I've been assured I'm first stand-in for tomorrow's performances when Rhys brings the best in the biz to Airdrie Town Hall. Caitlin Hutchison, STV News.
That's so exciting. I think maybe...
I think I could have done that, Caitlin. But anyway, Rhys Clark, hugely impressive. You should have him What's on Scotland.
We could. He could be among good company. We've got Jason Byrne and actor Jack Lowden on tonight's show, so tune in at 7. Thanks for watching.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye-bye.